Holistic with a W, it's the whole person. And so often people are trying to help and they separate someone's physical needs, emotional needs, social needs, spiritual needs, and environmental needs. And we, as those who are hurting, we don't separate our needs.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on the Gift of Need podcast. I'm Jude DiMeglio Trang, author and observer of human need in society. This podcast seeks to address the overlooked power of need and how it shapes our behavior, relationships, and society. It's born from my belief that our needs are not burdens, but opportunities and gifts. My guest today is Bryan Benz. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to be here with us. So, Bryan, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you did for your livelihood and career, etc.?
Yeah, first of all, I'm a longtime Tucsonan. I've lived here actually since 1959, so you can get a little idea of how old I am. I was not born here, though. Grew up in public schools here, proud graduate of Tucson High, proud graduate of the University of Arizona. I have an accounting degree. I spent most of my life as a business person. Spent 25 years in the gas station business here in Tucson, operating multiple gas stations throughout the city. In 2012, I went into full-time ministry, became a missionary, working for an organization called the Global Che Network. Left there, went for Tucson as a Poverty Reduction Task Force Director. And then in about 4 years ago, got the great idea to start Wholistic Transformation, changing hearts, minds, and communities.
Wow. That's a big life. Well, today we're going to be discussing the need for compassionate responses to problems in our society, and in specific to young people in foster care. Bryan is a man of big visions, and they are the kind that overwhelm me and most people. He's here today to share a vision that was born from a heart of compassion as he saw a need and decided to work towards a lasting solution. Wholistic Transformation, Changing Hearts, Minds, and Communities is the name of the nonprofit he's been working on for these past several years. We're going to hear what led to him starting this project and the difficulties along the way, where it's at today, and what we can all do to help. So, Bryan, let's go back to the 10 years you spent in places like Cambodia and Cameroon doing holistic community development. What did you learn during that time about people in developing countries and how to help meet their dire needs?
So I think one of the things we need to point out is we keep using the word holistic, and one of the things, we spell it with a W. We do that in purpose. If you put that in your computer, you're going to get a spelling error. So I'm personally on a goal to change that. But holistic with a W, it's the whole person. And so often people are trying to help and they separate someone's physical needs, emotional needs, social needs, spiritual needs, and environmental needs. And we, as those who are hurting, we don't separate our needs. And so it's not for those trying to help. We can't decide where we start. And so one of the things I learned in my time working overseas is it's important to develop a relationship with those you're trying to help, and you start with their felt need. And so it's, we used to have a saying is a hungry stomach has no ears. Or a mother whose baby is dying is concerned about their baby. And so we have to start there. And again, we're a faith-based organization. My organization that I worked with in overseas was faith-based. So we're always bringing the love of Jesus in each and everything we do. And oftentimes you have to earn the right to be able to do that. I think the other big important thing that is we're all about development, not relief. And so many people, so many good things are happening where we're giving water, we're giving food to those who are thirsty and hungry, and that's a wonderful thing to do, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the heart or the mind. And so the focus is, how do we change? How are the things that we're doing changing the hearts and minds of the individuals we're trying to help? Probably one of the other things is my elevator speech was training local people to use local resources to solve local problems. And so in communities throughout the world, they're very communal and they care about all the people in their village. Where the United States, we're much more individualistic.
Yep.
And so the important thing that we're trying to do is to build community.
That's so important, isn't it? When you returned to Tucson, then you became the director of the Poverty Reduction Task Force for Tucson. What did you discover about Tucson as a city and our level of poverty and need?
Yeah, so part of the reason that I came back, and again, I'm a person of faith, and so God laid on my heart, there's great needs throughout the world, but as I became, being a Tucsonan, I knew there was great needs in Tucson. And so at that time, and I haven't seen a recent statistic, Tucson was the sixth poorest city of its size in the country. And so I wanted to see what I could do about that, about trying to reduce poverty.
So are there just not enough programs and people to take care of the needs of all the people struggling here in Tucson?
One of the other interesting statistics that I learned is Tucson has more nonprofits per capita than any other city in the United States. So it's not a lack of people trying, in my opinion. And in many cases, it's not a lack of resources. It's being able to connect the resources to the people who need them when they need them. And so, and again, I think we have too much of a mind of working on relief type issues as opposed to working on development. Again, the goal we're looking for is, we use the word transformation, but it's the heart and mind that needs to transfer. How people feel and how people think is going to lead to lasting change. But it's difficult because it requires a relationship. It requires time. There's no quick fix.
No, there's not. John and I were driving here today, and one of our corners that we always pass, there's always a street person there, with a sign asking for food. And I just looked over at this young man, and he's all very, very tan. You can tell he's normally a fair person, but from being in the sun, living on the streets, and it's such a heartbreaking sight. And I think Tucson is one of those cities, because of the climate, we have a lot of people that come here and they sleep under the bridges and, have their shopping carts, some of them in the shopping cart villages. And, you had mentioned that, in Africa, community is part of the solution, because where the transformation takes place, it's because the whole village takes ownership for the people. So thinking about ways to implement the ideas and strategies you realized were a better way to approach systemic need and poverty by looking for ways to transform lives. What caused you to place your focus on the foster care system?
Well, I became aware of the outcomes of foster care. People growing up through the foster care system, the statistics are scary. For example, at 18, the kids are adults. They're emancipated. They can leave the system. 1 in 5, or 20%, are immediately homeless. They're choosing homelessness even though they can stay in the system till 21. So bad decisions. By the age of 24, almost 50% will be incarcerated. Almost 50% will be unemployed. If you went, I think the last statistics from several years ago that I saw, the city of Tucson, and this is just the city proper, has approximately 2,100 homeless people. If you went around and interviewed each of those, almost 50% of them would have been from the foster care system.
Wow.
And so another crazy statistic to me was that young women between the ages of 18 and 21, if they've come through the foster system, they're going to become pregnant 77%. Just a phenomenal statistic to me, and babies raising babies is not a good thing in my opinion. And so we developed, and I had a heart. I'm one of my skills, or one of my strengths, and from you do all the different personality tests, is I'm an activator, which means I want to get things done. And so it's hard for me to become aware of something that I see as a problem and not want to do something about it. And so that's how Wholistic Transformation really was founded. And in my own personal story is I was raised by my grandparents. I came to live to Tucson when I was 6 months old. And if I'd not had them in my life, who knows what had happened. And so I'm passionate and believe that the key to making a difference in those who are struggling, the poor, the homeless, the marginalized, it all comes down to relationships, positive relationships, and a sense of community. And so that's our goal. Holistic transformation is we're trying to prevent those things from happening. We want to get them before they become homeless. We want to get them before they are unemployed or before they're incarcerated. And so the base model is we're building 12 houses on the corner of 15th and Plummer. 10 young people, 10 adults, 18 to 21-year-olds. And then one of the things I think that makes us different, as far as I know, is we're going to have two what we call resident navigators. Those are grown-ups, if you will, who have a heart to live with 18 to 21-year-olds and guide them. We use the term navigator to whatever the young people's objectives and goals are. Our navigator is going to help them reach those goals, and whether it be through workforce development, whether it be through schooling, do they need their GED, and so they decide for themselves. I kind of tell the story like this, and so they're driving the car. Say I'm the navigator, I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My job is just to help them get where they want to go. If there's a roadblock, which we know in life there's lots of roadblocks, I'm going to help them get around the roadblock. And so we're not providing the services, but we're partnering with other nonprofits that are already in existence that are experts in whatever the need be. One example that I use is financial literacy. Every young person needs financial literacy, needs to understand finances. And so I'm on the board of the Tucson Federal Credit Union. One of the things that the credit union has done for the last 80 plus years is provide financial literacy training. And so Holistic Transformation is partnering with Tucson Federal Credit Union, and they've agreed to allow our residents to go through the financial training programs that TFCU offers.
So you're connecting, because as you said, it's not that Tucson lacks programs or the will. I mean, and I know that. I know, having lived here almost my entire life, Tucson's a very compassionate community and very much concerned about the people that are here. And so this is great, because it's kind of, you're being a hub in specific for the foster kids to connect them to these services that are already there. You don't have to recreate the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, how will you find the people to make this project work? Because when you talk about it, I see this huge chasm, and I'm going, okay, so where do you start? How do you do this? Where have you found people?
So our major focus is in the faith community, and so working through different churches throughout the city. So one of the amazing stories I love to tell is we have built a model home. And so if you would love to, we're doing tours we'd love to give anyone and everyone a tour. So this is a 1-bedroom with a kitchen, with a bathroom, 320 square foot house made out of shipping containers. And so we use all volunteers to put it together. One time when we were doing the stucco, we had 15 men, 1 woman. It was, I think, 3 or 4 different churches, and some people who were not even church. They were just there because they want to make a difference. And so we take anyone and everyone who's willing to help, and we'll put you to work, whether you've got experience or not. We have obviously a number of experienced people who know what they're doing, and so. But yeah, to specifically answer your question, so we're looking throughout the city. Anyone who's willing to help, we'll put them to work.
So what about these young people? So how will you choose which 10 will be invited for this first phase out of all the very needy individuals?
So right now, the other thing that we're doing is we developed a mentoring program, and so we are going into group homes, teenage group homes, and creating activities specifically with Gap Ministries. They have a group home of teenage boys and a group home of teenage girls. So we're building relationships. We're doing just last week we had the boys' house at Pantano Christian Church. They have a climbing wall there, so the kids were learning how to rock climb, and so activities like that. And so we're looking for 15, 16, 17-year-olds right now, and determining who is right. We'll develop an application process, because one of the things that we know is that what we're doing is not right for everyone. We're looking for people who want a hand up, not a hand out. They're going to be required to be engaged. So part of our model is it's going to cost you $800 a month to live in our community. But if you're going to school, we're going to reduce your program fee by $100, so down to $700. If you're doing financial literacy, we'll reduce it by another $100. If you're participating in behavioral health, we've partnered with 2 therapists specializing in trauma. And so all these different activities that they themselves have said will lead to their success, we're going to incentivize them by reducing their program fee. So they have to have skin in the game. And so it's important. We're not going to tell them what they need to do, but they need to do what it is they feel called to do.
So in this time period now, while you're building up to having the homes, which we'll talk about in a minute, by having workers being involved with young people from different foster homes, that's how you're kind of telling the ones that are going to have the interest and the commitment that it's going to take to be part of this community. It's not just, like you said, here's a house, just live in it and flop. It's going to be the ones that really want to make their life something out of their life and make something different. Exactly.
And so one of a success story one of the first things we've done in the different group homes, we've brought them on site. We talked to the kids. So there was in 2 different situations. There's a group of 12 one-time teenage girls, one-time teenage boys. We talked about what we're doing, what Wholistic Transformation stands for. We gave them a tour of the house. And as we continued to do activities with them, one of the young people, the next activity was actually at Rooster Cogburn at there by Picacho Peak. I'll give a plug for them. If you haven't been, you need to go. It's pretty cool. But anyway, this young woman came up to me and said, "Hey, Bryan, I just turned 18. I haven't graduated high school because I didn't go to any of my classes as a freshman, but I'm enrolled, and I'm going to get my degree. It'll take in December I'll be able to graduate. At that time, she said, I'm looking for a job, which she's been able to find. And then she asked me, say, I have a dog, and can I bring my dog with me? And I said, yes, we allow pets. And she says, well, I want to be your first resident. I want to live in your community. And so we're trying to work and walk through that process with her, because it's one thing to say, I want to graduate high school. It's another thing to do it. It's one thing to get a job. It's another thing to keep it. And so anyway, so rather than being 18 and being one of the 5 statistics that are homeless, she's staying in the system and continuing to receive help and support. And so that's a success story at this point, because this young woman is not homeless. She's not living on the street. And obviously, in my opinion, nothing good happens on the street being homeless.
No, it doesn't. Tell me about Rooster Cogburn's ranch. Now, why did you go there? Did you take the young people there?
Yeah, we took a whole group of young people there.
Tell people just briefly what this is.
Well, Rooster Cogburn is it's an animal retreat, I guess, for lack of a better word. They've got donkeys, and they've got birds, and they've got stingrays that you can pet. They got turtles, and have a big aviary where the hummingbirds and butterflies come and land on you.
Am I remembering that, like when you drive up I-10, is that the emus?
Yes, at the emus. The one thing I learned is ostriches are scary. I did not like them. So it's just a fun place to stop. I mean, and for us, it created an opportunity to build relationship, because we could walk and visit, and that's why we were doing it.
Yeah, and animals. I mean, that is such a connecting point that we talk about frequently. Our dogs that got so old that they had to be put to sleep, but they offer unconditional love, and all the horse therapy groups and that, it's so I think they're just really wonderful, because we connect. We connect with animals, and their love, they love the attention, and so I think that's just a great thing, and that you're allowing somebody to bring a pet.
Right.
I think that's really important for people. So where are you at now in the implementation of your vision, and what difficulties are you facing? Because John and I came in April and saw that first house, which was just amazing. We had, our daughter lives in Australia with her kids and family, and so we're there half of the year. And we had flown over right at the beginning of COVID, and made the choice to stay there for 2 years. And we had just had a tiny house built so that we didn't have to keep renting places. And we loved our tiny house. It was great. It was the size of a shipping container. It was actually made on what is that called? The box part of a semi-tractor trailer, right? So when we saw your house, it was great, because did you put 2 together?
Yeah, two 20-footers.
Yeah, so it was wider. That was our one complaint. We were going to add, if we kept the tiny house, we were going to add a second one, because your rooms are only 8 feet wide. But this house is just amazing. I mean, it's so beautiful. I would live in it tomorrow. It's just gorgeous. And to think, put yourself in the place of being an 18-year-old and having a place like that that's clean and beautiful and new. And don't you have plans that some of them can have input on what goes into the inside? Are they built just when the kids decide to be part of the program, or how is this working? Well,
one of our mantras, if you will, it's not about the house, but how can the house be used to change hearts and minds? Mm-hmm. And so, yes, our goal, our vision is that we actually will build we have 11 more houses to build, and we would have our residents picked out. And so how we feel the house is going to be used to change change is where they're going to be allowed to build the house themselves. As much work as they want to put into it, they'll be able to do. They'll be able to choose paint colors. They'll be able to choose the fabric choices on our custom-made couch. So all of this input, and again, you have to think about where these young people are coming from. In most cases, they've never had their own bedroom. Mm-hmm. In most cases, they've never had any kind of decision of to where they live it looks like. And so all of a sudden, I just feel it's going to be the first step in changing their hearts and minds. The fact that we're saying, here, we value you enough for you to have input into the place that you're going to live. And so the other part of all of this is, again, this is 12 houses, and it's set up in a village courtyard type situation. And so here is your house, here is your independence, but life is meant to be lived in community. So there'll be outdoor eating spaces, outdoor gathering, because that's the key. Again, as we went back in the beginning, the key is relationship, positive relationship. We sit on the property of Bethel Church on a Mission, and so part of the things we imagine is Sunday mornings, people could come over and have breakfast. Sunday lunch, we could see different churches throughout the community bringing a group of people over. We're just trying to surround these young people with as many positive relationships as possible to help guide through. One of the things I say is that when I meet someone and I'm giving my little spiel is, I don't know you very well, but you've probably made 4 or 5 bad decisions in your life. And then I say, well, I try not to make 4 or 5 bad decisions every day. But what happened for those of you who have overcome, it's because of the relationships in your life. It's because people have come alongside you to help you over those bad decisions. And so these young people don't have that. We have to remember that the amount of trauma they've experienced is overwhelming, and the people that are supposed to love them have not been able to love them. Mm-hmm. The state of Arizona has taken them out of their house. Yeah. And so it's a thing to overcome, but we know that the brain can be healed from trauma.
Wow, what a vision. How can listeners get involved, and in what ways? What are the things that you need? Are you ready and waiting now to build because you need volunteers, you need funds? Where are you at now right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm waiting for a hydrology engineer to do the work on the floodplain issues. And so whenever you put a building, and so people hear permit problems and they automatically think the city of Tucson. Well, my permit problems are with, my architect is better now, but now it's a hydraulic engineer. I've been waiting since April for him to get this report to me. And so that's what we're waiting for.
Then we submit for that.
Yeah, and we submit to the city to get our permits. Now the city has walked with us all the way through. So I'm confident that once we get this report done, mm-hmm. we'll be okay. And then the hard work starts, because then we got to raise the money. We're in the process of putting together a grant, a $250,000 grant from the Arizona Diamondbacks, which would allow us to do phase 1, which would be 6 houses.
Wow, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's the one phase we're doing. The other phase, and while we're waiting for that, is we're building out our mentoring and mentorship team. So we would love people to be able to volunteer and to be able to work either in a group type settings with young people in foster care, or moving towards a one-on-one. Again, relationship is the key. The other thing that we're doing, several of our board, in fact, 5 of us have gone through CASA training, which is court-appointed special advocate. So this is through the court system. And so the goal is that it allows you to build relationships. So the CASA then gathers information and makes recommendation to the judge in the case. And so right now there's 1,600 kids in Pima County. There's like 180 CASA, or 12%. And the results for those people, the outcomes change dramatically when there has been a CASA in their life.
And CASA, again, stands for what?
Court-appointed special advocate.
Interesting. So
and that's a court system. I mean, it's a...
And they try to match people 1-to-1.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And you can choose your age, whatever age child you would like to work with.
Well, I think this is one more example of how, for most of us, an area of need from our own history or in our own lives causes us to have our eyes and ears alert to similar needs in other people's lives. Your background being raised by your grandparents. So as you work so tirelessly to help meet those long-term needs of these young people, what need in your life has been met? How has this fulfilled something, or is this fulfilling something in your life?
Well, I think it's the need to make a difference, the need to try to give back and to help and acknowledge the blessing that I've received with the people in my life, the relationships, the amount of love that I have received and continue to receive, and so it's not fair. These young people are not taken out of their house because of their fault. That's right. And so when I just feel the need to do something and to prevent the badness that statistically almost 50% of these kids are going to suffer. And so we can stop. And we think about what that does for our community. You think of what it does for our prison systems, if we can stop it before it happens, it's phenomenal. And some people have figured out the numbers. You think if we can prevent one person from going to jail, what that saves our community. Mm-hmm. If we can prevent one person from being homeless, what that does to our community. Homeless people, there's a huge cost to our community, to our taxpayers, right? With the unhoused, with those in prison or jail. Mm.
Well, we could go on, but it's time to bring this to a close. Thank you, Bryan, again, for making the time to be with us today and talk about how these needs that many young people have for compassion, hope for a better future, can become opportunities and gifts to them, such as knowing they're valued and have connection with others as we come alongside to help. And then, of course, whenever we help meet the needs of individuals, communities, and societies, it brings joy and fulfillment to us and everyone involved. Yes. You can check out the work Bryan is involved with. This is, again, the Wholistic Transformation. And consider if there's a way you can help these young people, either by volunteering with your time or talents, yourself or your group, whatever you have at any point in time. It doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. And also donating to this great nonprofit. You can go to Wholistic, and that's with a W, correct? Okay. Wholistic Transformation Tucson.org. There'll be a link for it in the notes of the podcast. The great music you're hearing now was written and performed by Gabe Kubanda at Kubanda Music. You can find him on any streaming service. The engineer is Ray Engineeri of 3rd Street Productions here in Tucson. Please consider following, rating, and sharing this podcast and subscribing to my free Substack newsletter. And leave a comment or review. I'd love to hear from you. Bye.